Do you think that creativity comes from surroundings? Certainly, you are probably the most traveled person that I personally know. How many countries have you been to now by yourself, Jill?
109.
109
Wow.
countries as a solo female traveler, which is truly extraordinary. Do you believe then that inspiration, at least in part, comes from being in different places, or from being around interesting and different people?
I think, it's traveling certainly doesn't hurt. I don't think it has to be something that, expensive or involved. It can be simple things. It can be as easy as just taking the afternoon off and doing something you love, whether it's watching sports, going shopping, going to an art museum. It's just kind of reconnecting with your, raison d'etre, so to speak. Procrastination and perfectionism are evil twins, and they lurk in the corner of fear and uncertainty. Perfectionism is a real challenge for a lot of people. They don't want to put anything out into the world until it's perfect. The problem with that theory is that you can't actually have something perfect until it's been out in the world and you've had a chance to refine it. It's not something you can just create in your head and perfect in your head. It has to be alive and interactive in the world. Procrastination comes because we just think, oh, well, I have 5,000 words I'm supposed to write today. I'll just do it tomorrow. I don't really feel like it. I'm going to go to the bar for tequila or something. But what happens is,
Sit down, Jay.
We keep putting it off. And by the time, with procrastination, you've put it off so many times that had you just done it, you would have saved yourself hundreds of hours, but in just anxiety from not doing it. And it's also a gentle reminder that someday is not a day. It has to be in the calendar and it has to be on the books. Otherwise you're not going to do it. And once you train yourself with a little bit of discipline around getting things done that you've promised yourself that you would get done, it becomes a lot easier.
Jill, as a professional photographer for a long time, certainly you are very familiar with the rise of prosumer and amateur photography, and now with Instagram and other apps, everybody is at least pretend good at photography. How has the business of photography or the art of photography been impacted or affected by sort of the social photography trend that, of course, is never going away now?
Well, and some people would argue that in a lot of ways it's been decimated because people's standards have been lowered. And additionally, when Instagram was in its more nascent years, anything went on Instagram in terms of imagery quality. So it was almost like, from an ad agency standpoint, the worse the imagery, the better. It represented social media if it was bad, if it was gritty, if it was like grungy, shabby chic. But that's changed so much. Instagram has really grown up. And I think one of the reasons why it's beat Facebook for a lot of reasons is the image quality is higher and the interface is a lot cleaner. People can really blow through that feed fast. I know I do. And you like what you see. It's much more visual and less textual than some of the other mediums. And so I think the pendulum has finally swung back towards this editorial advertising, higher sheen, glossier look. And I think for a lot of brands and marketers, it's a lost opportunity to not take advantage of that platform in that way. Like just photograph, the days of photographing your lunch and slapping it up are kind of over. Like you really need a strategy, an editorial plan, and high quality assets.
Jill, the interesting thing, at least for me, about photography, and I consider myself an amateur photographer, is that it's about art and science. It's right brain and left brain. You've got to have that creative eye. You've got to be able to know about composition and color and all the things that you would think are creative, but you also got to have some analytical and, as you said, kind of scientific type knowledge and insights. I'm curious how those kind of come together and kind of where you look at photography in terms of it being purely a creative discipline or a scientific discipline, or where you put that line in the sand.
I feel like I would say it's 80% creative and maybe 20% technical. I mean, nowadays, most professional photographers of a higher level would work with a post-production person that's kind of on the more technical side to do higher end retouching and things of that like. I think a lot of photography is native. It's what you see. It's the reason why if you go out and buy a $10,000 digital camera, you don't automatically take good pictures.
Right.
It's knowing how, it's what you see, how you see it, and your ability to consistently produce, right? It's not just about the one-off picture where you got lucky and the sun was in the right way. It's how you light, how you see things. So I think it's very much creative, and you do start to see the world through those lenses. And that really amps your ability, I think, to keep creating and being surrounded by great imagery and people who are technically astute.
I'm curious how the photography book business has changed. We've certainly seen mainstream business books change, with the evolution of the Kindle and ebooks and things like that, with fewer bookstores than ever. But I'm curious how the large book, where the physical image is so important, it cannot be, easily, attributed to an ebook, has changed the way that you've promoted or marketed those books, Joe.
Yes, well, it's a great question because it really has changed a lot. I mean, traditional coffee table books have really plummeted. Sales of those books have plummeted. But the one area of books that has gone up tremendously are limited edition books. So that's really what I focused on getting. As a photographer, we're super anal about the paper types and the inks and the bindings. And when I set out on this, I just wanted to produce really for myself the best possible book I could. So I found the best archival papers, custom hand-stitched binders, all the bells and whistles, and put it out on the limited market. And those do much better, ironically, than those sell for $1,200 a book, than the book selling at $80, for $80 or $40 to $80 range that you see oftentimes, unfortunately, in the 99-cent bin at Barnes and Noble. They're just not. People don't have the space for them. Everybody, I think, has enough coffee table books. And so unless it's something they specifically want and feel like it's a piece of art that they're collecting, which is the opportunity that limited edition books give people, they're kind of not interested in stacking their house. And probably some of that's due to Marie Kondo and people getting rid of things.